okay, get it away from me because I have to do the detect magic thing, and it becomes a lot clunkier.
That seems like a bad way to explore a dungeon. Like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna get rid of all my magic items and then take the lead by 30 feet.
Yeah. Seems ill advised, right?
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Detect Magic.
They're magic. They're magic. They're magic. You're magic at home, viewers. Right. This is a cute
Oh
little
yeah,
ritual spell. Like, everyone under the sun gets this. Like, almost every single spellcaster in the game gets this. I think artificers do also get this.
yep.
Everyone under the sun gets
Just
this.
just warlocks.
Yep. That's not honestly, they have an invocation for it. So even
Yeah.
warlocks get this. This is
If they want to blow an invocation on that.
yeah, which you don't necessarily have to if everyone under the sun is also getting
Yeah.
it, you know? So it's a ritual spell, as mentioned. Got to cast them of an action, or 10 minutes if you use ritual casting. Concentration, 10 minutes. Concentration is a really big damper on this thing. For the duration, you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet of you. If you sense magic in this way, you can use your action to see a faint aura around any visible creature or object in the area that bears magic, and you learn its school of magic, if any. Spell can penetrate most barriers, but is blocked by a foot of stone, inch of common metal, a thin sheet of lead, or 3 feet of wood or dirt. That's it. This is
Yeah.
magic.
That's pretty simple.
There are some notes. First note
Yeah.
I would say, detecting the presence of magic within 30 feet of you is denotably different than identifying what kind of magic it is. So if there is, for example, a creature under the effect of an invisibility spell, whenever you would detect the presence of magic within 30 feet of you, because you would sense magic in that way, then you would want to be able to use your action to see around a visible creature, but it's invisible. So you can't,
Yeah.
you'll know that there's a magical creature or some magical effect around you within 30 feet of you. You won't be able to detect what kind of magic it is because you can't see the creature to use the effect on them. That makes sense?
Yes.
Beyond that, this is just like, hey DM, I want to know if this door is dangerous. Detect magic. And then you go, oh, well, the door is glowing with evocation magic. That can't be good. That's the kind of effect this tends to use.
Or
I find it's a very useful thing to have one member in the party that has this. I don't necessarily think you need more than one member of the party that has it, but your DM does have to be like, okay, I can build encounters and frame the game knowing that my players will be able to detect and get hints of these things are magical and thus they are important, and I can sort of play around with that expectation. There's a lot of potential with detect magic.
it's mundanely trapped and you get lulled into a false sense of security.
That has definitely happened more times than once,
Yeah.
where the players will be like, I don't trust this dungeon door. Check magic up. No, no magic. It looks clear. And they'll be like, you hear a hissing sound below. And they go, it's fine. There's just a snake living down there. And they open the door and explodes. And I go, well, I did try to warn you that he rigged it with TNT, but I guess, we all have to learn the hard way sometimes.
There's just a snake down there. That's fine.
I've heard players say dumber things than that.
You've probably heard me say dumber things than that.
Yeah.
Um,
I
all
like
right. Yeah, it's detect magic. I mean, I've been playing for a while, different editions. It's been there probably from the beginning. Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
My primary use for it was, all right, encounter's finished. Let's pile all their shit together and see if there's any magic items.
Be like, wow, that's a lot of magic in that area. Point, 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 and you can figure it all out. That
Yep.
is a really easy way to do it. A lot of time the game doesn't explicitly call every kind of magic out as having a school, but a lot of DMs will rule oh yeah, if it's an enchanted magic item, it's the enchantment school. If it's a curse, it might be necromancy. So you might have a little bit of fun differentiating magic items to be like which ones are cursed and not, with just general guesses with detect magic. That can be fun. This has, that real use case is
I mean,
this dangerous?
I don't know that I've ever played it rules as written though. Like this harkens back to when we were talking about identify. It's all right, I cast detect magic. Yeah, there's a +2 sword. There you go.
I think this is one of the more loosey-goosey spells in the game anyway, if we're gonna be honest, right?
Yeah.
The aura is a really vague term, and you learn at School of Magic is not necessarily the same as the aura, and you're gonna get DMs that get really creative with it. You're gonna DMs that just tell you these 4 creatures are this aura or whatever. They won't even
Mhm.
have you use actions for it. They'll just like shortcut it because using actions is slows down the pace of the game where you have to be like, I check that, I check that, I check that, I check that. And that's just not something a lot of people want to sit through. So this gets shortcutted a lot. This gets changed a lot. That doesn't mean you shouldn't play Rules as Written. Honestly, Rules as
No.
Written, I think this is one of the better like little detection spells in the game. I think it gives just enough information. But it also is relatively harmless in how it is often changed. So
Um,
try it.
all right. So now you're saying that you use an action to identify things. Is this something like how does this work? Combat versus non-combat?
So technically speaking, everything is happening with the realm of actions.
Yes.
So like you would be spending an action every 6 seconds for your entirety of life, I believe. So this would be the kind of thing where out of combat, you would be like, all right, I'm going to spend 6 actions and then in order identify, or not identify, detect those 6 things and their auras to learn more about
All
them.
right. Well, that's yeah, I understand that. That's not really my question. It's like, you were saying before, a lot of DMs will just hand wave that the action cost, and in combat, that's going to make a big difference.
The answer
You're
is
not.
yes, that does make a big difference.
Yes.
That's why hand waving it, that's what like playing, there are reasons the rules work the way they do,
Yes.
right? And I'm not advocating to change them. I'm just saying it does happen. And I think
Yeah.
it's important to acknowledge that. And in that situation, you are getting more out of the spell because of it is, instantaneously giving that a feedback. I still think a lot of the time that's fine. Like as long as people are having a good time and the game isn't radically changed by it, I don't see it being that big of an issue just to know that these 4 things are magical. A lot of the time you could have guessed that anyway whenever they started to catch on fire or, exploded out whenever you touched them or began raising the dead around them. Like there are signs that these things are magical and knowing ahead of time doesn't often change your decision making. Still, rules as written, you would have to check them all as actions. So there is a little bit of play for the play tables
Well, I
that
mean,
just generalize it.
let's see. All right. All right. All right. So for the initial casting, you just sense the presence of magic within 30 feet of you.
Yes.
So
Period. You don't
there
know where it
is
is. You don't
magic or
know.
there is not magic.
Correct. It is a
Okay.
binary. Is
Yes.
there magic within 30 feet of me?
Yes.
Yes or no?
All right. So yeah, for using the actions, then you detect the auras for particular visible creatures or objects
Yes.
and learn the school of magic. Okay. I got you. I got
Correct. You go, is there magic around me? Is that magical? Is that magical? Is that magical? Is that magical? Is
you.
that magical? How that generally works. It is kind of a pain in the ass to run that way, though.
Yeah.
I
I
definitely
mean,
shortcut this whenever I'm DMing for it. You still have to check, but I tell you what you detect is magical within the area, and then you detect it, is normally how I run it, because it speeds up the process of, I check that box, I check that window, I check that curtain, I check that, and it's 10 minutes, so they're gonna have time to check everything you want to check, just, headphones gone. Make it a little less painful on everyone and speed it up a smidge, I think that has some value.
yeah, this is something I've not used to its full potential. I've used it plenty of times, but like I said, for one specific purpose, piling a bunch of shit together and seeing if there's any magic in there.
I definitely think this is I would consider the most iconic ritual spell because it is exactly what it is worth. It is worth ritual casting. Isn't really worth spending a spell slot on it a lot of the time. There'll be moments where you're pinched and when you have to know we need to know what's magic right now. And in that instance, it just lets you know there's magic around you, and then you still have to check everything. So it's still not like an instantaneous knowledge. So I find this is really at its best to say we're exploring, we're going slowly, we want to not get randomly blown up, or we want to not miss anything. That's where you spend 10 minutes, you get magic up, you start to learn around the area, what's going on. You take a nice leisurely pace through a non-time pressing dungeon, right? Like if you're delving through the ruins or something and there are
Mhm.
ancient traps laying in wait. There isn't a huge time crunch there, so this is where this effect can really shine. Whenever you're out of combat exploration and you go, okay, but before we head out into this known dangerous environment, let me get detect magic set up, so at least for the first 10 minutes of it, we'll know if, like, oh, these ferns are magical and dangerous, or X, Y, or Z is magical, and that kind of stuff. And in that case, I think it's great. I still don't regularly want to spend first level spell slots on this unless I absolutely have to.
All right, let me ask you one more question here. All right, it's got a concentration up to 10 minutes. All right, you cast it.
Yeah.
And you learn within 30 feet of you, yes, magic, no magic.
Mhm.
For the duration of that 10 minutes, does that knowledge move with you?
Yes. So you will know
Okay.
constantly, is there magic within 30 feet of me? If
Okay,
it'll be a passive no until something detects as magical, then it flips to yes. This notably gets a lot worse if you have magic items on you. So
oh yeah, that's true.
keep that in mind. Maybe you throw all your magic items on somebody and you go, okay, you hold these while I detect magic to see what's not mundane in this room.
Stay 30 feet behind me.
You're also going to see a lot of people shortcut over that and go, we don't consider also your magic items. You detect new magic. In that, this is again a loosey-goosey spell that plays a lot better as intended than whenever you really go into the minutiae of the rules. Again, the moment there's a magic item on the table, you're like, okay, get it away from me because I have to do the detect magic thing, and it becomes a lot funkier.
That seems like a bad way to explore a dungeon. Like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm gonna get rid of all my magic items and then take the lead by 30 feet.
Yeah. Seems ill-advised, right?
Yeah.
I like this thing a lot. I think it's a solid 4 out of 5. A lot of tables benefit majorly from having it. A lot of tables benefit, especially in the low tiers, it's just like the first way you detect what is dangerous in a world where things could be dangerous. It's a spell that you can't always have up, but you can often have up, and that is a useful tool for DMs to be able to tell you information discreetly, to be able to say, "Oh, you discovered something," because I knew you were probably going to cast Detect Magic here. Right? It's a handy little device that gets important information to the player's hands when they need it. It's good for detecting magic items and stuff like that. I like it. It's great. And your DM does want to use this and like think about it in the context of presenting dangers to you. So
All right, I'm gonna ask one more question. This you might be amused by, but the mechanic, the initial casting mechanic, feels similar to find traps.
the difference, I think, is that this is a first level ritual spell with no costs and
Yes,
will immediately alert you to magic versus the generically defined trap
yes,
that only lets you know instantaneously. This is a persistent. Define traps is
that's
instantaneous.
true. Ooh,
If
that's a
this
big
were
one.
detect magic around me now, way lower on it. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's detect magic around me in a 30-foot radius for the full duration.
All right, I am going to defer to your wisdom and agree with your 4, because you sound like you have a lot more experience with detect magic than I do. I've used it a bunch, but for one solitary purpose. And yeah, I think it's a lot more valuable than what I've used it for.
It can't be.
All right, well, that was Detect Magic. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Let us know what you think in the comments. It's a yeah, it's a fun spell. It's got a bunch of uses. Let us know what if we missed anything. I'm sure there's stuff we didn't even think of. Comment and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.